Hello, everyone. Grace and peace to you. It's Pastor Gary here. And actually, let me just turn on this electric light so we have a little better lighting. Should be the first one. There it is. That's a little better. So we've been homebound here. I started recording these videos, I think, March 18th, which is over a month ago. So it's been some time. It's been actually closer to 5 weeks, I think. I've certainly done, let's see, 2 Sundays in Lent, Passion Sunday, Easter Sunday, and we just passed the second Sunday of Easter. So it's been at least 5 Sundays, and today is Tuesday after Easter too. So I wanted to think about the space because I realized that looking at my face with nothing behind me and nothing else going on wasn't ideal. I also regretted that I couldn't have the candle that I sometimes use or the incense that I use or the bowl of water that we use for remembering our baptism. None of that was visible unless I held it in front of the camera because of the way that room was designed. That was my dining room. So what I've done is kind of created my own little home liturgical space here. This video is just a walkthrough of what I've done and what all these things are so that people aren't complaining, oh, what's that? Why is it there? So to begin with, I needed a space where I could put something at a level that would make sense. I happen to have this little kind of, I guess you could call it a dresser table. I don't really, I think I inherited this piece of furniture. My father, I think, gave it to me and his wife, Susan. So thanks, Dad and Sue. Thank you for that. And this normally sits here and it's where I put my mail. It's right by my front door. So it's where I put my mail. I often have had bowls of water here in the past for people to wash their hands as they came in or wash their faces. That is actually an ancient world practice. There was a custom where you always washed your hands and your face as you entered someone's home. And for that reason, because water's always kind of been prominent in this space, I have this wall-mounted poster of a Japanese piece of art. It's obviously a reprint. It's not authentic, but it's $20 at Target. And I framed it because I wanted to have something to decorate this blank wall space. So I struggled with that and whether or not I could figure out what else to put up there. But I decided that given that how much we have to rely on our baptism in this time, that it might be appropriate to remember water and have a very vivid depiction of water at all times. So that was what was here when I started working with this space, is this table and this wall poster. So I cleared this table off. There was nothing else on this wall for me to worry about other than the poster. So I had a pretty good place to work with. And this kind of works as like almost an altar-like space or devotional table, which really makes it obvious. Now, the reason why, if you're wondering, I'm not sitting behind a table so that you're on one end of it, I'm on the other, and this stuff is in between, is that then I wouldn't really be able to manipulate things well without being on the other side of some of them, and that would create a lot of distance between you and me. I'd rather have it be that we are on the same side of especially things like the cross or the icons, which we'll get to in just a second. So I already had a couple of things that I've used previously. You'll recognize this candle, although this is a different candle than the one that you may have initially seen me use in my Vespers instructional video. This candle is actually an old Vesper light. So here is what Vesper lights are. Vesper lights are not Christ candles, which don't exist, and they're not Paschal candles precisely, which is this big candle, which I'll explain in a bit. But let's talk about the Vesper light. The Vesper light is normally a retired Paschal candle. So that's a Paschal candle, which we use for remembrance of baptism, for funerals, for Sundays, for days in Easter, especially Sundays, including Pentecost. So that's what that is. So it's about 51% plus beeswax. Ideally, it's as much beeswax as possibly can be. I'm burning this as the Vesper light because we already have we've just replaced it with a much longer Vesper light at the church. So I brought this home to use it because otherwise it would just get thrown away. So that's where that came from. That's our Vesper light. It's still burning from Vespers today. I also have this white sage that I've been using for incense with a bowl to put it on so that it can burn safely and the ash can be collected cleanly. This bowl is ceramic. And so that way we don't have to worry about it once I light it. And I've started lighting it over the Vesper light because both of those things are used mostly in Vespers. So that way I don't have to be clicking something around. The Vesper light I lit from the Paschal candle. The Paschal candle, this is actually the Paschal candle that I lit at the Easter Vigil this year out of the fire of creation. So it is from Atonement. I borrowed it and brought it here because no one's burning it at the church, that's for sure. It is lit right now. You can't quite see it. As time goes by in the season of Easter, it will continue to burn down, and eventually you'll be able to see the top of the Paschal candle and that it is burning. Ideally, the Paschal candle burns throughout the entire season of Easter. It's lit on the Easter Vigil at the very start. It processes into the sanctuary. It sits there lit until Pentecost or until Ascension Day in some traditions, which is the Thursday before the seventh Sunday of Easter, or some traditions leave it lit until Holy Trinity Sunday. There are, I'm certain, people who will argue vehemently about which of those is right. As a matter of practicality, what I say is if you have an Ascension Day service, it's perfectly acceptable to remove the light from the Paschal candle and extinguish it at that time. It's also appropriate to have it lit on Pentecost, which is always a baptismal festival, where we do affirmation of baptism, remembrance of baptism, etc., etc. We can go on and on about the Paschal candle. Some explanation about the Paschal candle, since I'm explaining things. There are 5 nails. Those nails represent the 5 wounds of Christ, is kind of the thought. So side, both feet, both hands. At least that's how I understand it. The wax is red and contains grains of incense. They are actually nails in there. Traditionally, when the candle burns down far enough that it actually starts affecting those nails, you remove the nails and place them into right by where the flame is, so it heats the nail and releases the fragrance of the incense and melts the wax into the candle. That is what happened here. If you were to look into the top of this old Paschal candle, you would see the nail still embedded in the top. And that's how you can tell if something's a retired Paschal candle. It should have nails at the top. You may not be able to see very clearly, but at the vigil, the candle is marked with, we use plastic stickers. Traditionally, you carve into it what I have instead traced. There's a cross. That's what the nails are at the points of. Above the cross is an A. It's not really an A, it's an alpha. And beneath it is an omega, the Greek letters, the first and last Greek letters. I am the alpha and omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, right? And then within the cross, you'll see the year 2020, and all of that was exposited at the lighting of the Paschal candle, which is a video you can find on this channel if you would like to see what I said at the lighting of the candle. Okay, so I thought I'd borrow that, and that was really cool. The rest of this came from my office, where I normally have a window alcove that serves a similar function to what this is doing. I borrowed a crucifix from that place. This is a brass crucifix from Atonement. INRI is at the top, and it displays the crucified Jesus. Even in the time of the resurrection, the cross of Christ and the crucifixion of Christ are important to remember, just as the resurrection is. We adore you, O Christ, and we bless you. By your holy cross, you have redeemed the world, right? So it's important to remember that. Baptismal water, as I've already said. And then the icons. We'll go from first to last, easiest to understand to most obscure. This is behind the Vesper light is the Virgin Mary with child. So that's Mary Theotokos, Mary the God bearer, with Jesus Christ in her arms. The reason the Vesper light is there is because, one, the Magnificat, which is Mary's song, is often sung at Vespers. So I thought it appropriate to locate the Vesper light near her. Two, I have to be able to reach this and move this around, and it would be much more awkward to reach to the incense and bring it over here and then reach across to pull it back. And third, it seemed to me appropriate that the light of the world, Jesus Christ is the light of the world, and Christ is portrayed in this icon, right? And so I thought it would be appropriate to have a higher level of light bearing and devotion there. Over here we have St. Andrew, the first called. My name is actually Gary Andrew Bruce Woodruff, and I was baptized, I believe it was on the Feast of St. Andrew, if not very near to it. So St. Andrew is considered my patron saint, if you wanted to use that kind of traditional language. So I've always identified with Andrew, and I happen to have an icon of him. And then here we have an icon of Saint Photius. This I picked up actually at an Orthodox church in Saint Saint Augustine, Saint Augustine, no, Saint Augustine, yeah, Saint Augustine in Florida, which is actually one of the oldest European inhabited locations, continuously inhabited European locations in the country, on this continent, really. Some think it might be the oldest continuous settlement of any European origin in the continent. Very, very old. The Greek Orthodox Church that I visited there with my dear friend, the Reverend Dr. Gabriel Morgan, as well as a number of other sites there, the Roman Catholic Church and a number of other congregations. Um, but they're all very, very old, predating the United States. That's how old we're talking about here. And the Greek Orthodox um, building was very small and very difficult to find because, of course, the Orthodox at that time were not in high favor. Uh, Many persons from Western Christianity, Latin Christianity, would still struggle with even calling the Orthodox Christian to some extent, which is unfortunate. Saint Phobius, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, Saint Photius. Oh, I keep messing up the B and the T. His name means light, and he was a famous defender of orthodoxy. So I purchased that icon there, and so I leave that there as a remembrance of the importance of witnessing to theological orthodoxy in our current climate and throughout, indeed, history. So that's our little alcove, and you've already seen it in use in Vespers, and I hope that this explanation was helpful. I'm always looking for ideas and feedback, so if you have any, feel free to let me know. God bless you, and I hope to see you again at Compline.